lady. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that the Sonia Osorio versus Adelaida Ruiz rematch has landed on the undercard of the Vacates versus Ruiz II unification match, a Marv Nation / Golden Boy promotion. Marv Nation have been doing a lot of business with the people at Golden Boy lately. Tickets are now on sale for Golden Boy Fight Night on DAZN, Valle versus Nuñez. The card will take place on Thursday, September 8th at La Ciudad Deportiva Jainer Ugalde Hatillo in San Jose, Costa Rica, and will be broadcast live on DAZN, the Golden Boy Boxing YouTube page, and on the Marv Nation YouTube page starting at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. This will be the second meeting between reigning WBC interim super flyweight champion Sonia Osorio and unbeaten up-and-comer from East LA, Adelaida Ruiz. Adelaida Ruiz, a Marv Nation fighter. The newly announced co-main event will feature a bad blood rematch between WBC interim super flyweight title holder Sonia and undefeated challenger Adelaida. The two will meet again after their first bout ended in a technical draw following an early stoppage that was due to a cut above Osorio's left eye that was caused by an accidental headbutt. Osorio captured the WBC interim super flyweight title in October of 2019 when she outboxed Estrella Valverde en route to a unanimous decision. She has faced top fighters such as Anicia Estriada and Marlene Esparza. She was quoted as saying, "I'm very happy to once again fight against Adelaida Ruiz. It's a fight that has been a long time in the making. Like always, I am working hard. I'm a professional, and I hope to deliver a great fight. I know it will be a great event, and I will retain my title because that's why I have been training so hard." Ruiz's only blemish is a technical draw against Osorio. The Los Angeles native immediately bounced back with knockout victories over Nancy Franco and Edith Flores. She is determined to become a champion on September 8th. "The fight means a lot to me," said Adelaida. "I've wanted this fight for more than a year. And now it's here. I favored Adelaida to win the first fight, and I am favoring her now to win the rematch." Adelaida Ruiz, who has fought 2 times since sharing the ring with Sonia Osorio, and she's knocked out both fighters. Adelaida, who said, "I felt like they took the title away from me when I fought her in Mexico, but God has given me another opportunity to fight for the title. It's a big step forward in my career, and I'm willing to sacrifice everything to win. We are training very hard for this fight. Sonia will see a different Cobra, more mentally and physically, and a more experienced Cobra." Their initial meeting took place a little over a year ago in March last year. A year and 2 fights later, Adelaida Ruiz is now a somewhat more experienced fighter than she was when Sonia first fought her. And in Costa Rica, I think Adelaida Ruiz is going to secure the W. I think she is going to secure the victory, and I think she will become the WBC's super flyweight interim champion. Adelaida Ruiz is one of Ring IQ's top prospects to watch in the year of 2021. A fighter we've discussed here on the channel many times in passing. A fighter with very generous physical dimensions as far as super flyweights go. 5'6", that's big for a 115-pound fighter. And how she gets all the way down to 115 pounds, I'll never know. But she is one of the better unbeaten up-and-comers at or around super flyweight, a hard puncher and a spiteful one. The winner of the fight becomes the mandatory challenger for Lourdes Juarez, this division's full-fledged WBC champion. And I believe Adelaida Ruiz is going to win the fight. I believe Adelaida Ruiz will become this division's interim champion beyond this fight. It's a question of how long is it going to take the WBC to order a fight between Adelaida Ruiz, should she win, and Lourdes Juarez, this division's full-fledged WBC champion? It being that Sonia Osorio has been the interim champion since 2019, and the WBC never got around to ordering a fight between Osorio and Juarez. Will it be different if the interim title... Will it be different if the title changes hands? Because if she's been interim champion since 2019... It's the strangest thing. Sonia Osorio procured the WBC's interim title in October of 2019. Lourdes didn't pick up the full title till a year later, in December of 2020. The following year, last year, Sonia Osorio and Adelaida Ruiz fought early in the year, in March. The fight was ruled a draw, and there was plenty of time remaining for the WBC to order a fight between the full champion and the interim champion being Sonia Osorio, and they didn't order that fight. You have to wonder, if the title changes changes hands. If Adelaida Ruiz becomes this division's interim champion, will the WBC so decide to order a fight between Adelaida and Lourdes?
Because I do think Adelaida Ruiz is going to win that fight, perhaps by way of knockout.
Beyond that, the only place to go for Adelaida is up. Will she be afforded the chance to unseat Lourdes Juarez as this division's WBC champion? Only time will tell. For now, keep your eyes peeled for Osorio versus Ruiz II, set to go down in Costa Rica September 8th, early next month, which will be featured on the DAZN platform. In men's heavyweight news, I'm sure all of you have heard by now that Tyson Fury has officially vacated his Ring Magazine title, a symbolic representation of his lineal status, which in many ways he has already forfeited, announcing his retirement for the second time, having beaten Dillian Whyte.
A lot of people wrestle with this, and I don't know why. There's only 3 ways to lose lineal status.
There are only 3 ways to lose the lineal title: in death, in defeat, or in retirement. And by my count, Tyson Fury has already retired at least 2 times since knocking out his WBC mandatory challenger, Dillian Whyte. Him vacating his Ring Magazine title,
That's only further confirmation that he is no longer this division's lineal champion.
for anyone who might have been wrestling with this, who needed confirmation that Tyson Fury is no longer this division's lineal champion, this is it.
And as a result of Tyson Fury vacating his Ring Magazine title, it will now be on the line in next week's fight, next week's rematch
Between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, as both Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk are rated as the number 1 and number 2 guys in the heavyweight division's divisional rank standings, not to be confused with alphabet rank standings, which can be manipulated.
Well, really, any rating system can be manipulated, but the alphabet's rating system oftentimes is manipulated.
And it's obvious. If you needed further confirmation that Tyson Fury is no longer the heavyweight division's lineal champion, him vacating the Ring Magazine belt is a physical representation of him rescinding his lineal status. He was asked about how he wants to be remembered after vacating his ring belt, and he said, to be honest with you, and I've always said, I don't really give a fuck what people think of me. I don't care how they remember me.
That's Tyson Fury, always giving back to the fans.
Thus, it has been confirmed. The Ring Magazine heavyweight belt will be contested for in next week's Alexander Usyk versus Anthony Joshua rematch after it was vacated by Tyson Fury. And I think a lot of Tyson Fury supporters are going to wrestle with this more than anyone and everyone else when it's a clear-cut matter.
Life goes on.
And so does boxing. The first time that Tyson Fury retired, the first time that Tyson Fury walked away from the sport and took that 2-year hiatus, a lot of people felt like he was a man hard done by the alphabets and the pundits, the media. They felt that he was mistreated, but at the end of the day, it was his decision to walk away from the sport and no one else's. For whatever reason he did it, and the sport must go on.
The cover story was that he was mentally unfit to fight.
Whether or not he was mentally unfit to fight, your guess is as good as mine, but what we also know is he was under investigation by UCAT at that time for nandrolone that was found in his system after the Christian Hammer fight. He chose this time to walk away from the sport when he was under investigation by UCAT and he was contractually obligated to face Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch, obligated to face him for a second time. This was when Tyson Fury chose to bow out, and in his absence, a new crop of champions sprouted.
Charles Martin picked up the IBF title, which he subsequently lost to Anthony Joshua.
Anthony Joshua, who went on to pick up the newly vacated WBA title in the Klitschko fight. Joseph Parker picked up the newly vacated WBO title, and life went on. Boxing went on. In the absence of Tyson Fury after his initial retirement,
A new crop of champions sprouted.
and in this, his third announced retirement, a new lineal champion has sprouted, or will sprout next week when the outcome of Joshua versus Usyk 2 is decided.
If Tyson Fury wanted to, he could have waited. He could have waited till next week for the outcome of that fight.
He's not under any orders to satisfy any mandatory challengers because he already satisfied his mandatory challenger. All he really had to do to keep his lineal status and keep his Ring Magazine title was wait because he wasn't under threat of being stripped.
He wasn't under threat of losing the Ring Magazine title or the WBC title for that matter.
If he wanted to remain this division's lineal and Ring Magazine champion, he wouldn't have announced his retirement 2 times after having defeated Dillian Whyte. Thus, if he is no longer recognized as this division's lineal champion in some circles, it's his own fault. It's because of his own doing.
When Tyson Fury first retired, he took a liking to calling the champions that sprouted in his absence paper champions.
Which is a very cheap and short-sighted way to look at things. I mean, if you decide to retire, what do you think? The whole sport of boxing is going to retire? No, it's not. Life is going to go on. Boxing is going to go on without you.
If you decide to vacate whatever alphabet titles you were holding at the time, what do you think? They're supposed to stay vacant for all eternity, for all time?
Of course not. That's fucking ridiculous. Somebody's going to end up picking up those titles. Somebody's going to be crowned a champion, and life and boxing will go on. And if you wanted to be a part of that picture, you wouldn't have retired. In this situation, when it comes to the Ring Magazine title and lineal status, if Tyson Fury gave a rat's furry fucking ass about any of those things, he wouldn't have announced his retirement 2 times after having beaten Dillian White. So when the winner of this fight is announced as not just this division's only unified champion, but the Ring Magazine and lineal champion as well.
These intermittent retirement announcements that Tyson Fury likes to make, they hurt his own legacy.
Not that Tyson Fury cares about any of this stuff. He says that he doesn't, but his fans do.
They're the ones arguing in the comment sections of Twitter and YouTube.
Nobody ran Tyson Fury out of the sport.
Nobody.
You understand. No one can accuse either the pundits or the boxing fans at large of running Tyson Fury out of boxing in this latest retirement announcement, this latest retirement stint. What he's doing voluntarily. You want this guy to be more than what he is, but he's showing you what he is.
He's a fucking transient. He's a waffler.
You can't wait 1 week's time for the outcome of this rematch to be decided. You can't wait just a few months for the chance to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. You can't wait?
Tyson Fury's fans care more about Tyson Fury's legacy than Tyson Fury.
The only question now is, will he also vacate the green belt? Will he also vacate the WBC title? As that will have a further impact on the landscape today and the heavyweight division, the world title picture, and that undisputed conversation. Can we expect Tyson Fury?
Is he going to vacate the WBC title next? Because if he's retired, then he should.
And if he does, on the premise that in the next 24 hours, Tyson Fury decides to also vacate the green belt, also decides to vacate the WBC title, if by the time this video is uploaded, that news breaks, you know what that means?
What?
That means the WBC is going to move to have that green belt on the line this fall in Deontay Wilder's ring return, affording him the opportunity to become a 2-time heavyweight champion. In all likelihood, if Tyson Fury chucks the green belt, that's what's going to happen, at which point...
As dubious as that might sound, Deontay Wilder is the WBC's #1 contender.
His ring return is scheduled for October of this year, him having last seen action in October of last year. It will have been a year's time since Deontay Wilder had a fight, will have seen action, and the WBC has made a conscious effort to keep him in a pole position to fight for the green belt, even though he already lost to Tyson Fury 2 times. The first time he lost to him, you could have argued that as a former champion, he deserved some consideration in their ranked standings, but he already got it. When he loses to Tyson Fury for a second time, you're going to keep him at #1 for a year.
He didn't lose any ground in their ranked standings at all.
So what are you telling me based on these ranks? That none of your other ranked fighters, none of these other contenders have been fighting and winning since Deontay Wilder lost to Tyson Fury? How the hell is he stuck at #1? Are these ranked standings frozen or something?
Or is it that you're manipulating these ranked standings to accommodate him?
Because I gotta tell you, that's how it looks. And if Deontay Wilder can procure the WBC title for a second time, well, you can kiss that dream of seeing an undisputed heavyweight champion crowned. You can kiss that dream goodbye. Deontay Wilder, I think, has enough left in the tank that he can knock out a Robert Helenius. And if the WBC title is on the line in that fight, he will see himself become a champion for the second time, at which point he won't look to move into an undisputed title fight with the winner of Joshua versus Usyk, especially if the winner of the fight is Alexander Usyk.
Doesn't come with the same added value of a Joshua fight.
And even if Anthony Joshua were to win, even if he were to upset the apple cart for Alexander Usyk, that still doesn't guarantee that Deontay Wilder would fight him. The fight now, that fight, would still have the same promotional and platform issues that it had before, 2 years ago. Now, I think if Deontay Wilder is afforded the chance to become a 2-time WBC champion, what he'll do afterwards is go straight into a fight with former unified champion Andy Ruiz, should Andy make it past Luis Ortiz in a few weeks' time. The situation hasn't changed. The people at the PBC will try their best to keep Deontay Wilder on their side of things, defending that title against hand-picked opponents.
As far as how all of this reflects on Tyson Fury, vacating the Ring Magazine belt and potentially vacating the WBC title.
Well, what are you supposed to say? If you're one of these guys who wants to talk up Tyson Fury as being up there with Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis, Larry Holmes, those kinds of fighters, those kinds of guys, this is not in keeping with what those kinds of fighters and those kinds of guys would do.
His fans want to make it out like he's the greatest thing since sliced bread for retiring undefeated.
But he's retiring undefeated, having not faced everyone out there. Needless to say, he never fought Anthony Joshua, even though he had the chance upon his return to the squared circle, his return to the boxing ring after his 2-year hiatus. The opportunity was there to fight Anthony Joshua. He chose Wilder here and now. The opportunity is there for Tyson Fury to face the winner of Joshua versus Usyk, regardless of who it is. But look at what he's doing.
You're not the same caliber as an Ali or a Joe Louis or a Lennox Lewis being this selective.
Because they weren't. For the most part, they fought anyone and everyone that was worth fighting in their era. And what your unbeaten record and your intermittent retirement announcements denote is that,
well, all these fucking intermittent retirement announcements.
Muhammad Ali didn't take intermittent stints of retirement from the sport of boxing. He was exiled from the sport of boxing, exiled by the U.S. government. He wasn't voluntarily walking away the same way that Tyson Fury's voluntarily walking away.
The truth is that Tyson Fury didn't establish himself as this era's premier heavyweight.
He beat the previous era's premier heavyweight towards the tail end of his career in Vladimir Klitschko.
That's what he did, and then he retired for 2 years.
And it's not like while he was gone, it's not like in the 2 years that he was retired, Deontay Wilder established himself as this era's premier heavyweight. He never unified a title, never became a Ring Magazine or lineal champion. Now Tyson Fury, he did in their second fight, in their rematch. He did become a Ring Magazine and lineal champion. That was having not fought the other champion at this weight, the only other champion at this weight, Alexander Usyk. And if Joshua beats Usyk or Usyk beats Joshua, these are two fighters that Tyson Fury hasn't fought.
And that's reality.